You dig on multiverses?
Penis. Yeah, we dig on multiverses, so it's
Uh,
4:30 a.m.
yeah.
and we were talking about multiverses.
Welcome to in the AM or whatever we're gonna name it.
Yeah,
Uh,
we're riches, and it's way later than we
yeah.
really should be awake. And I'm out of
Concept of the
water.
show: we're sleep deprived. We talk about dumb shit. You've seen pseudo versions of these episodes with like Dragon Ball power scaling. Link in the description. Blah blah blah.
Yeah,
And we have a Naruto video that we haven't published, and I need to double check the edit on that. But we were talking about world building and power implications. Shall we backpedal to the Hannah Montana
yeah,
argument, the Hannah Montana talk?
yeah, yeah. We were talking about how like we were talking about Jake Paul and how shitty he is, and how he used to be a Disney star. But then I thought what would have happened if, say, instead of Hannah Montana becoming the creature she is today after leaving Disney, what if she became like a YouTuber, Jake
Yeah,
Paul style,
the
fucking
female Jake
wretch?
Paul. My thoughts on this is basically that the fact it wouldn't just be a different sort of like
Yeah, it wouldn't
here's the
just be.
world, like there are a lot of implications that would lead
Yeah,
to those steps. The reason why
yeah,
Jake Paul and like Logan Paul are so popular is one, they're from Ohio, and
and
two,
as we all know, Ohioans are the definitive form of American.
yeah, sort of semi-southern to completely southern. Because I mean, it's kind of surprising in Ohio, like the differences here. Like
Yeah,
there are like people who literally like hunt for a living, and then there's also people who are like live
who
in a
do a
rich
desk job.
neighborhood and like sell cars, and it's really weird because
Yeah,
it's perfectly split down the middle almost.
you could end up with like a redneck in one side of a room, and then have like a guy who's a complete desk jockey on the other. In
The
fact, we've had calls like that,
Oh yeah,
basically. Yeah.
the secret
Like
to it is that
I
Ohio
consider myself
rests at the
desperate.
center of like mass appeal. Like
Yeah,
it has. I mean, yeah, Logan Paul and Jake Paul are both from Ohio, and they're both the sort of like jock types that like when me and Kieran were in school, those were like 90% of the kids. They were all kids that wore Nike clothes like religiously.
yeah. They wore those like wristbands that were like pseudoscience shit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you wouldn't ever see him wearing anything but like Nike
yeah,
or like maybe Adidas.
but like gym clothes. Like they
Yeah,
only ever wear gym clothes.
shorts, Nike shirts. Like who? I don't understand how someone could like
They
religiously
only
only
play.
wear like a singular brand of clothes and like
Yeah,
all that like it's like oh yeah it's an Ohio winter. Oh yep, there's people wearing their Nike shorts. Makes sense.
yep.
I coined the phrase Nike Nazis, which I may edit out. I coined a
No, 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 no,
phrase.
no. Keep it in. You
Okay.
know.
Oh yeah. I didn't Joe. I mean, honestly, I used to Joe well with that crowd though. Like weirdly enough, I don't know. I used to be a sportsy type guy. I just wasn't as interested in wearing the stinky Nike brands all over. But yeah, I used to call them Nike Nazis. I coined the phrase Nike Nazi because I thought, hey, that's funny. And if you take all the swishes, you can make it into a swastika.
Yeah, and also because some of them probably were Nazis.
Maybe not Nazis, but definitely racist.
Definitely racist, and there were swastikas in the high school bathrooms.
Oh yeah, and there's like maybe like four or like five kids of like non-white ethnicity. Maybe,
There were like, yeah, like
and that includes
like there were
Sam.
like,
Like Sam's fucking one of them.
yeah. See, there's like there's more like Latin American descended
Oh,
people,
yeah, I mean a little bit more.
or
Yeah, but like I don't know.
but like
It's a
otherwise it's like full on there were like what 3 black people in the entirety of the school.
Uh,
Like three,
yeah,
maybe four.
dude, I saw like one like the only like four black kids in the school, and they just traveled in a pack the entire time. And I'm like, it sounds weird saying it's like, but I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that this school actually had any, because my thought process of the school was that they were so fucking like not like inclusive and just like
It was that it was white.
yeah, white only for some reason. And I'm like, oh shit, there are actual people here that aren't just
Yeah,
fucking annoying white kids. Like that's cool. It's good to hear that there's actual like people who actually
people here.
who aren't just annoying assholes.
Yeah,
But
I know that like Mason is way more diverse. Like I think what like from what I hear from
is it just raining?
my aunts and uncles, like Mason used to be super white, but like it like cleaned up its act a bit, and now there's like a more diversity and shit.
Neat.
So it's so maybe all the white trash moved down.
I think they
Either
moved
that or
over to
Lebanon.
here.
Either that or Lebanon has just always been white trash.
Maybe they just never cleaned up their act.
Yeah, I mean that there were people that like my
I mean,
aunt worked with at the nursing home is like I spent my entire life in Lebanon and I have a high school education and I work at a nursing home.
it kind of makes sense though, because like I mean, like for immigrating into the states or just like existing as like someone who isn't like just born in a specific area, which would probably be like some country white person, is you probably want to go to the more of the sort of cultural hubs. When people like
Yeah,
immigrate into the states, they think about New York, California, maybe even
yeah,
Washington, or maybe even Oregon,
yeah.
just like coastal
Colorado,
coastal
like
and
Chicago.
like famous.
You know,
I don't
cities people know about.
like if I was a refugee or someone just wanting to move to America, the place that I think the first place I never think of is I should move to rural Ohio in pseudo country where there's cornfields and weird
Cornfields
weather.
and only cornfields.
Like obviously that's one reason why there isn't like a large population of any sort of ethnically diverse people, is because, well, like who would want to be here? The only people who would want to be here are the people who are born here and just can't leave, like us.
Yeah, we're stuck here.
The rest of the world is lucky that they don't live in Ohio. I actually like Ohio. That's just me, because I don't know. The bike trails are
I
really
mean,
nice, and when you look at the bike
it's
trail for a
too
while,
hot.
it just gets way too hot sometimes. But at the same time, it's like
Yeah, and
the only
with
way
the
you can get
fucking
colder is if you move to Canada.
and plus like from what I could tell, like the climate change shit is getting us hard.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing
You go to
like
Ohio
it's
winter, except it's warm for some reason, and then it gets cold.
it gets barely cold. There is like
Sweating.
we have had no winter this year. There's nothing, and you know what? This will have
It
like
snowed
bad
once, like almost a
consequences.
once, I mean, it hasn't hit
Yeah,
January yet. January where it really picks up.
but still, if not, the thing is if it doesn't freeze over, then like some stuff that's supposed to die out there, uh, doesn't. That fucks shit over in the spring, from what I heard.
It don't.
Yeah, we were talking. We've gone on a tangent about Ohio.
Oh yeah, well, I mean
Yeah, we were.
that's fine. I mean anything to sort
Yeah,
of beefing up.
yeah,
But so yeah,
yeah. We were.
Ohio basically
We were
represents a big majority of just the center demographic, the demographic that you want to hit. The majority of
yeah,
people,
the sheep.
these almost uneducated, because half the people in our school cheated their way to the top. Like
Yeah,
there are a bunch of like jock types in our school who like very obviously like fake stretch and look over their shoulders at your paper, and like you'd see them, it's like,
yeah,
okay, yeah, sure, you're a straight A student and you're
yeah,
cheating off me, sure.
yeah, yeah,
Shit like
yeah.
that happen all the fucking time, and it's just like, yeah.
Or
So
they like have their earbuds in, or they fucking literally just had a Chromebook open during a test.
yeah, some teachers didn't care. Some teachers did, and when
Yeah.
the teachers cared, they
I mean,
cheated off.
they're not paid enough to care.
Well, yeah, I remember asking one of my teachers, not going to name names. I asked them. I made a pseudo joke, or not a pseudo joke. I just made a joke about, not really. Oh, whatever. I slightly hinted and joked about him not getting paid enough, and he's like, "You can't say that." I don't want
It's
to.
like I'm offended.
I'm like, oh, here's a good joke. The teachers are mad because they're not getting paid enough, or something of the sort, right? It was going to be more tasteful than just very straight to the point. But yeah, he's like, you can't do that. I'm like, yeah. And it's like you can't. It's like, yeah, they're not. I'm not. I can't say stuff like that, and I can't let you say stuff like that. It's pretty annoying. It's like, yeah, I could see that. I don't remember if that's exactly how it went. I mean, my memory's skewed. Obviously, it's school, and there are a lot of like brain processes in school, like stress, that would affect how I remember specific scenarios. But anyways, Ohio, big demographic of all. The reason why
Big
Logan and Jake Paul are popular, or were popular after they. I mean, they didn't fall off, but they definitely haven't been as poignant as they were in the past.
they got corporate crippled.
Yeah, they did get kind of corporate crippled. So what ends up happening is they're from Ohio, and they are literally the type of person that represents a lot of the world. They are these.
They are literally the stereotypical stupid American.
Pseudo.
Like one of the major stupid American stereotypes. Not the fat one.
Yeah, not
but
not the fat one, but like this sort of country, pseudo country, like techie type. Like, oh, they all have phones, but at the same time, and will wear like name brand stuff, but at the same time, like likes NASCAR and enjoys riding on an ATV. Like
the pseudo cowboy.
And that's like a lot of people, surprisingly, and it really it's like right down the middle. If you're a techie type, if you're like in a big city, you get it because of the Supreme shirt he's wearing, the name brand. And then if you're the absolute like sort of southern, or not southern, but like just sort of like not in the sort of tech field or like involved in all that, like more like rural farming culture, you would get the like him riding around on an ATV and doing dumb shit, find fun.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, I mean, it's like
you get the thug and you get the nerd.
It's like, yeah, I mean, that's like I've been to people's houses that sort of are exactly that. Like, hey, I got like a 4-wheeler. You want to try? Or hey, you want to go fishing in a pond and do dumb shit? I'm like, yeah, we're in Ohio. What else are we gonna do?
And then you've got people like me, where I'm a total desk jockey.
Yeah, we're both super techie types, except I'm more outdoorsy, despite my my rampant and only skill in life being that I'm a gamer. But I don't know, I grew up different at the same time, while also, I don't know, I'm a bit of a hybrid. Ain't that neat?
I'm so skinny that I don't fall under twink. I fall under skeleton.
That's the way to be.
But
yeah, so a world where Hannah Montana, Miley Cyrus would be this Logan Paul type. There's a lot of implications that would need. There's a lot, not implications, but things that would need to be changed in the quote unquote. Let's call it the Cyriverse, or the Mileyverse. How about the Mileyverse, right?
Yeah, the Mileyverse.
This is the Mileyverse where Miley Cyrus is a Logan Paul famous YouTuber. There are a lot of different things.
And also recall. Yeah, first of all, would be the timeline of events, because like when Miley Cyrus is older than Jake and Logan Paul.
Yeah, that would be a big change, because the big part of the appeal of Logan Paul and Jake Paul are youth. They're obviously they've fallen off some because they have like whatever, like Jake or Logan Paul has like a full on like almost homeless beard. Yeah.
Yeah, he has a beard, and he looks like a homeless man.
And just spending all his time doing MMA, or whatever, or boxing, or whatever the hell.
trying to be Brock Lesnar or whatever.
He's not. Honestly, not really caught up on what he's doing lately because he isn't like getting
Yeah,
covered by every commentary channel. Whereas like, oh
yeah,
hey,
and
Logan Paul
I
did this
honestly don't pay
horrendous
attention.
thing. Yeah, he's just like fallen out of like the public eye because a lot of people were talking about him, so a lot of people were
Yeah,
getting that sort of kickback. There was like, I mean, yeah,
because
a lot of people get that. Like if something
now,
blows up negatively, it still blows up. Like people still
yeah,
view it. So,
yeah, it's like Logan and Jake Paul are now like a couple years old news. Now like the new big motherfucker and big thing that people hate is like Dream.
Dream being like overly. I mean, just mainly his fans are annoying. His videos are probably
I, I,
scripted because if that man
I
is
find
that
him
lucky,
an irritating
and yeah,
fuck.
you could, and there's are people who just hate him downright. I
Yeah,
can, for me, I can respect the quality of.
I'd punch that guy in the nuts.
I I mean, I've watched his videos. Obviously, I wouldn't be making claims on Dream without actually viewing some of his content.
Smack
And
his nuts!
he knows,
Smack him!
he definitely knows how to keep tension going and keep like they're very cinematic videos. They're very they keep you entranced in them. They're very fun to watch. But then after a while and after like cheating like accusations, he becomes a lot less enjoyable to watch when you like see him like
For what he is.
like surf across a gas after like an uncomfortable cut. It's like this is
And
very
then
clearly
Disney
scripted.
princess.
Yeah, and then he calls himself a Disney princess. Uh, I can respect and still enjoy the videos, but like he is that those aren't genuine videos, and I might still argue
Yeah.
that like they're very clearly edited because there is no way that man is so lucky, and I might just be jealous because I have terrible luck, and like the world constantly seems to be screwing me over.
I think he's just a bitch.
I mean, unless there's like sort of push and pull in the universe, and only so much like luck that can go around, and this motherfucker is stealing my luck. I'm gonna be kind of
He's stealing
pissed.
everyone's luck.
Yeah, the reason why I'm so unlucky is because it's for Dream to pull off gas surfing plays. Anyways,
Fucking Disney princess. Fucking. But wait a minute. Yeah, this actually can tie back into the Miley Cyrus bit because
oh yeah,
like
sweet. Because yeah, I
when
was
you
getting
first
to that.
talked about it, it was like a more. You said it was either a more female
Yeah,
related society
you would have to
and
have a media
woman related.
more.
I don't want
Yeah,
to say female because that makes me sound like a
yeah.
fucking redditor.
You would need a more female predominant
Yeah,
media, like things that appeal to definitely females more, and a lot of the reason why like male is more, I mean, media is more male oriented was just because that's how it sort of
actually,
started.
let's make a correction here. It's not female or woman.
Yeah.
It's young girls.
Well, that would be the
It's young
target
girls.
audience, but I'm just saying that like
That'd be,
I believe Miley
yeah,
Cyrus would be a lot like would be able to like pop off more if like the world was more like focused on these specific elements. A
yeah.
big
Well, I mean,
reason.
she did pop off a bit when it was like
Right.
her era,
Well, yeah, it was.
like
She was
when
during.
she was a Disney
Yeah,
star.
she rode a wave of like female influx. If she maybe was like, if she was like young, maybe around like yeah Dream time, where like a lot of it's like these weird obsessive fangirls, or like Justin, or maybe like if Justin Bieber, which I believe got popular off YouTube, or
Yeah,
at least
he got
found,
popular off of YouTube.
at
Yeah,
least got
he
found
started
on
on YouTube.
YouTube. I
He
believe
was
like
found on YouTube because he was just like a random guy.
yeah, like similar to that, you could probably have something blow off out of that. But I mean, Miley Cyrus actually became like famous and shit. So yeah, I mean, if they got
Yeah, well,
famous
it
like
was
Justin
partially because
Bieber,
her dad was famous. Like, well, I
yeah,
mean, he was more like her
like
dad was a one-hit wonder who got like hired onto like TV shows, and then that gave her a foot in the door.
yeah, was that the same for Logan Paul? How did they get into the sort of Disney
I
sphere?
I don't know how they got into the Disney sphere. I know that like a lot of how
I mean,
Disney does things is kind of fucked up. Is they basically like they basically home grow their stars, where they start out as like the child side characters in one sitcom and then become the teenage protagonist in the next,
yeah. I mean,
and
it's
then be
probably easy to
and then they
keep
also
like
have them
these.
singing and dancing so they can sell albums and shit.
Well, yeah. I mean, they are a company and they want to make money. It makes sense, even if it is kind of somewhat dark in specific perspectives. But at the same time, I would
Scummy.
if I was a Disney star, I would enjoy that aspect of it. It's like even like after this show, it's like
I
I'm
mean, the
going
thing
to
is,
be
but
in something else later. I have like a promised success.
yeah, but the thing is, it might not be something you want to be in, and plus they might be strong arming you.
Oh, I mean that's
Where
for
it's like,
sure.
oh, if you,
Same
yeah,
time.
because remember, like, being a child star ain't that good. Like, ask Macaulay Culkin.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, even though being a child star might suck, I would love to be where Macaulay Culkin is right now. I mean, he's like in the YouTube sphere right now. Like,
oh yeah,
he's
yeah.
not like
He did.
not the sort
He's
of
not like Logan
zeitgeist.
Paul.
He's not like
He's
the
more like
zeitgeist
he's
YouTube.
niche.
Yeah, and that's. I mean, for me, I enjoy where he's at right now. I don't know how he
He
feels
went
about
from
that.
being a big child star to being a niche micro celebrity on
He
the
did.
internet.
And honestly, it's pretty sweet because seeing him show up in like Red Letter Media, or even what was one video I
The
was watching
money
where
shot.
he shows up in a couple videos. It's just really fucking fun. It was like, hey, that's Macaulay Culkin, and I love how sort of just how like they don't play it up when it comes to Red Letter Media. It's like, oh hey, it's Macaulay Culkin. Oh my God, Rich Evans, you were on the Ellen Show. Oh man,
Wow.
wow. But yeah, that's pretty great. So yeah, for Miley Cyrus to be a Logan Paul, I like a Logan Paul. One might be the one we need here is the appeal, and so there'd been a couple changes that would need to change for her to basically get to that position of where Logan Paul is. You would need the audience to be different, and you would need the the place that she was in was different, and the way for her place to be in was different is how the sort of media, quote unquote, would change.
Yeah, because like Miley Cyrus is like was like heavily marketed as like a Montana girl. That's why her name was fucking Hannah Montana on that show. Because she's like from Montana. She's southern. Like, whereas fucking Jake Jake fake fuck boy
Jake,
is
Jake, Jake, Jake RuPaul.
Jake yeah Jake RuPaul's Drag Race over there is like in Ohio, and
Ohio.
the yeah, Ohio wretch.
I can't imagine a worse
Uh,
fate. Oh
yeah,
wait, I live in Ohio. Scott the Woz lives in Ohio. We're all doomed.
yeah. Unlike, say, good old, wretched Ohioan. She's like full. She's a full Southerner, and also this is like a the era she would rise in would be completely different from the one that Jake Paul rose in. Because like, if we're talking like like the time that like Miley Cyrus like stopped being Hannah Montana. If we say that it's around that time when she would like switch to doing being a YouTuber in this hypothetical scenario,
Yeah, like right off the sort
uh,
of teenage years.
yeah, it would be like that would be like that would be like when we were in like elementary school, like late elementary school, right?
Yeah, and
So
that
that would be like
YouTube might not even
mid
existed in that time,
2010s.
right?
No, it would be mid 2010s, I think.
That's so weird to think about. But it definitely wouldn't have been
It would,
like you wouldn't be able to get to that position. Like the most you
yeah,
could do is like
yeah, cause
PewDiePie, and that was because the way you got famous on the platform was a lot different. If we
yeah.
wanted to do like a proper like time specific like Miley
Yeah,
verse would be that she would be a PewDiePie Justin Bieber esque character
yeah. Wouldn't
where
be like a Jake Paul couldn't exist. Plus, remember, Jake and Logan Paul, while they did get popular, they were that wasn't how they got to be the face of YouTube. Like YouTube just chose them to be the face after seeing they were popular, and
Yeah.
then that added on.
And then yeah, just like some
Because
things they did was, I mean, they had an audience. They got boosted by YouTube, and then they had people criticize them that also boosted them. So they had
yeah,
multiple factors leading.
yeah,
So for
because
Miley Cyrus, to
Jake
get your
and Logan
point,
Paul, yeah, Jake and Logan Paul were effectively YouTube's attempt at replacing PewDiePie because of the various controversies surrounding him.
the bridge.
Yeah, the
Well, the
bridge.
bridge, not so much. Honestly, that was blown way out of proportions, especially with the media hounding him. If like if news outlets wasn't calling him a
It was the
Nazi,
Fiverr thing. It was the
oh
Fiverr
yeah, the
thing.
Fiverr thing too. There's just a lot to it that caused sort of him to get sort of hounded on by multiple sources. And when your sort of benefactors are at the door, pissed or just hearing about this guy who's supposedly a racist or something, or made a funny joke. Oh no, I'm gonna get called out too. But yeah,
Yeah, because
you
the issue with YouTube was they expected a what would essentially be considered a normal guy to take on a celebrity persona.
yeah.
Now, of course, like when PewDiePie could be considered one of the first like internet micro celebrity, except that
Yeah,
he was more like he was way bigger than
I
a
mean,
micro
he
celebrity
was
when he was at it.
top. I mean, almost not a family, like at least a family name in some circles.
Yeah, in some circles,
Like a lot of people
it,
know who PewDiePie is, especially after the media outbreak, and like uninformed people like know about him because it's like,
yeah,
oh, he's a belligerent racist who should be
or
removed from the
before.
world.
Or before that, he was almost like, oh, that's the YouTube guy.
Yeah, it's a YouTuber.
It's the YouTube guy.
Yeah. So yeah,
It's like how, it's like, kind of like how the Disney stars, it's like, oh, that's the Disney guy.
that's the Disney guy. We know him.
Yeah. Now, of course, then with Logan and Jake Paul, it takes away I'm assuming the reason why YouTube maybe chose them was because they were actual celebrities first.
Yeah, they might know how to like control their sort of appearance more, despite the fact that they don't. And that's
Yeah,
mainly
they don't. They were
that's just because like
Ohio.
Ohio and just like they were Disney like young stars, and like at that
Yeah.
time they probably weren't allowed to touch anything on like online. Like I can't imagine Disney allowing like a child star like Logan or Jake Paul to like manage their own Twitter account. But at the same time, that wasn't really in an era where they had to do it
Well, no,
either.
they
Like I don't
like
remember
the
many.
shows they were on. They were on the teen star shows.
Yeah,
Like
I
from what I
mean,
can tell.
I don't know. It seems weird to me. Like in my head, I can't imagine a world where like their shit isn't managed by someone else. But also at the same time, in Hannah Montana's case, like that wasn't a thing at all. You didn't need to manage like a Twitter presence to be relevant.
Yeah,
So there's some differences there too. Like there is a big time span that definitely changes a lot of factors.
yeah, because the development of the internet between like then, like even like halfway through the 2010s and like the later 2010s, is like big. It's a big
So
difference.
big that it should be considered some generational gap. The there is for when it comes to the difference between a big development in the internet and like family. Like if you were born with the internet and like your sibling was born, like your like older brother or older sister was born without the internet, you are completely different people.
Yeah. If
This
you were born during the evolution period of the internet,
uh,
like as opposed to like what it is right now,
even if you weren't like even if you were born and then got into like the internet later, you're still going to be a different person. For example, a big example of this is General Sam and his brother. They were literally sort of like right in that sort of gap. And General Sam's brother is, well, I don't know, like sort of like, yeah, just a hard sort of working, rural type. I don't know much and about him besides just the fact that like he does actual hard labor. General Sam was born with the internet. His brother may have used the internet, but like General Sam was born in the sort of like the dominance of the internet, and that caused him to be, a little squeamish, not squeamish, a little fucking
Piss baby.
a little piss baby rat online who makes awesome videos.
Yeah.
So
It like yeah,
it changes people, and it definitely defines like a large difference in people. And the
yeah,
fact
like
that there may
if
never
you
be a
if
senator who
you're
was
grown
born
if
during a time.
yeah, like even just YouTube, like if we speak in just a YouTube term, it changes a lot.
It has
Like a couple
huge
years.
differences.
Like YouTube's algorithm used to favor views over watch time.
Yeah, imagine that.
Like it's like one click and you're
Yeah,
done.
YouTube has
Like
changed a lot,
that's
and
that's
that would also be an aspect
yeah.
considered.
And then also what type of content is popular has changed. Like gaming videos where it's just a let's play used to be far more popular, but now people want more like essay type videos because now the place of the let's play has generally been replaced by streaming.
Streaming
And I don't
or short specific type videos. Jay Schlatt rocks off the
yeah.
formula pretty well with like his Jackbox videos, stuff like
Yeah,
that.
you do like a short like gameplay montage, like a quick cut of stuff
Yeah,
rather than a full playthrough.
you got videos
Like they
like almost like I don't know, just yeah, quick, almost like ADD, just like satisfying needles, just appealing to just like these quick needs. I mean,
yeah, and then you've got the longer form videos. It's why things such as why guys like Scott the Woz have gotten popular.
yeah, Scott the Woz is on TV. What a man!
Yeah,
And
he's on TV.
Ohio represent. Goddamn! I hope one day I actually just
He's
see
the
him
other half
traveling.
of Ohio.
Yeah, similar half to us. I mean, I mean, like he's like similar to Riley a lot because Riley's very much a sort of Nintendo nerd, and
Yeah,
Scott the Woz, I believe, could be sort of put in that boat, maybe.
yeah. The side of there's two types of Ohioans: Il Nerd and the Thug.
The thug. I mean, Nintendo
Yeah,
nerds. I mean, yeah, these Nintendo nerds would develop mainly because of not poor financial situations, but not like in a financial area where you can be like, I'm gonna go buy a PlayStation 5 and an Xbox. Nintendo was
yeah.
cheap,
Either that or
accessible,
just
and
your
everywhere. They won the
yeah
console wars, and you grew up in that sort of time span when it was like
yeah
coming
that
up with like Wii U, even GameCube. And
that or that's
so
just what your parents bought you.
yeah, I mean, also at the same time, they were a lot more sort of like, they were more known to like
Yeah,
rural types. Like, I mean, sure, Xbox would definitely be considered more predominant now, but like in that
yeah.
area, I mean,
I mean, everyone and their grandma had a Wii.
like for,
Even
yeah,
even if the jocks wouldn't admit it, they had a fucking Wii.
yeah. I mean, I know that. I mean, I've been to fucking jock type people's houses, and they have I mean, everyone had a Wii because mainly like it's not the fact is it should we're not determining this off the fact that the like child or the person actually consuming these consoles, it's not the fact that they want to have these things, it's the fact that their parents got them these things, and
Yeah,
that makes a difference because what the parent knows is they probably don't know about Halo, they probably know
yeah.
about a Nintendo and the
Mario.
console wars, like the
Or they know that
Sega
the Wii,
Nintendo.
or that they know that the Wii costs less
Yeah, or the Wii costs
or
less. Yeah,
something.
there's the price point. There's price
Yeah,
point and just what they know.
Yeah, what they know,
Like if you asked a
like
parent
what
back in the day,
games.
it's like, hey, have you played the new Halo game on the Xbox or Xbox Live? They might think you're speaking in moon runes, but if you ask them, like,
Yeah,
I mean, these might be the people, depending on the time area we're talking about. These are people who do not understand a lot of the sort of big tech hub stuff, and so the only thing they'll hear about is like the big stuff that happens, and a big stuff that happens was
yeah,
Nintendo and Sega battling. That
yeah.
might have been something they grew up with, or even themselves, like were like on the
Participated
or
in.
yeah, or on the tail end. They grew up with it, or they participated in, or they're just on the tail end. They just hear it as sort of like
Like my aunt had an original Game Boy in her closet,
yeah,
and my dad had a.
right,
Well, I'm not sure if my dad owned it, but
I mean
it definitely was in his room. Where it was a old Nintendo 64. I still have it.
exactly.
It's on my bottom shelf.
This is what your this is what one's parents would grow up with. So this is what the parents would be familiar with giving to their kids.
Yeah,
So this is why the Nintendo nerd like emerged, is because it's Ohio, this rural type that got their kid a console that the parents were familiar with, a Nintendo product,
yeah.
and that's why Scott the
I
Woz is it, and that's the reason why Scott the Woz plays Chibi Robo Ziplash. The end.
Yeah. And then there's also the fact that Nintendo also dominated portable gaming. I don't mean
Yeah.
mobile gaming.
Yeah.
That's a separate thing. I mean like portable
Yeah,
gaming.
portable gaming back in the days with like the
The,
Game Boy
the Game
Advance.
Boy,
Like,
yeah, the Game Boy
dude,
Advance,
fucking
the
everyone had a
DS, the
DS.
3DS.
Dude, in the DC trip, the trip to DC in school, how many people brought their damn DS on the bus? Almost all of them,
Yeah,
even the jock types. And if people weren't drawing people weren't drawing penises in the picture chats, you weren't riding the same bus as me. That's how it be.
yeah,
You cannot say otherwise. That's just getting weird hiccups.
yeah.
That's yeah. I mean, that's Ohio
Yeah,
types, definitely. I don't know if, I mean, that might be true for
yeah,
other parts of the world, but like from someone experiencing Ohio, talking about Ohio and Nintendo, that's how it is.
yeah. And of course, the jocks would deny the fact that Nintendo had any value
Well, yeah.
unless it was Smash Bros.
Well, yeah.
Or Mario Kart.
Well, that's sort of just good party games and like
Yeah,
beginner entry for specific people. But yeah, part of it was this sort of like need to be cool, and that's when like Call of Duty was leaking in.
yeah.
Like,
Call of Duty. That's the reason why there was such a big hate. That's part of the reason why there
uh,
was such a fucking massive hatred for Call of Duty
a big part of it
on the
was like
internet.
Nintendo. Like, even though it may not be as relevant as you think it is, a part of that would be the fact that how like Nintendo back in the day censoring blood in Mortal Kombat. From those actions, the perspective on how the way people view Nintendo was very child friendly. So these like teenagers, like many others in the world, wanting to have this sort of rebellious stage, thinks this is more adult, this is more like grown up,
Yeah,
this is Call of Duty, this is shooter type games. They definitely
yeah,
wanted to stray away from what they considered childish and move on to what they
yeah,
considered adult. Halo, Call of Duty, and big Xboxes and console things. And I mean, we're talking like, I mean, obviously these might be, what we're talking about may be skewed from our perspective. They might not be true at all. And just like
yeah.
how we,
And of course,
yeah,
it also could be considered if we're looking at it from this line of thought, it could also be considered the origin of the graphics war.
a big part yeah, a big part of Call of Duty's selling point was this sort of realism. It was
Yeah,
gritty, it was real. And so these kids growing up with it had this understanding of, not only does this like is greater than Nintendo, so not only are they viewing this lens because they think this is better, so they have this sort of lens that this art style, the way that they're taking things, is the right way to do things, right? I mean, that would be the same with music. That's how
yeah,
like music used to be. Like, that's how
yeah,
the sort of music evolved from like
yeah.
blue, I don't know, blues, pop, whatever, and then like rock and roll popping out. And then that's how a lot of people began viewing how music should be. And you just see that kind of evolve from the next generation sort of wanting to stray away, and then viewing the things as good, and then growing up and creating their own things and being inflected from what they grew up with, how they viewed things, and what they thought was quote unquote better. So with Call of Duty, they thought, hey, this is the graphics is what's important here. So when they grow up and what they want is more graphics. So that's when like their sort of thought processes and things have repercussions. Their minds say the graphics is what should be better because that's how Call of Duty did it. Call of Duty's better than Nintendo. So more graphics, whatever, right? Better, whatever, good.
Yeah.
And so that's what happened.
And of course, this predominance, this counterculture, ironically creates another counterculture.
Yeah.
It creates the reaction creates another reaction, because the years we had of effectively what some people call the yellow piss stain shooter days.
Oh yeah,
you know,
shooter
days. Your
yeah.
Call of Duties. Yeah,
basically Call of Duties.
The brown piss and brown colored shooter game era. It caused a sort of more what you can see now as the renaissance of old type shooters.
Yeah.
There's
boomer shooters.
Which basically boomer the revival of boomer shooters that have like block your graphics. Go for older styles of control.
Ultra Kill, Dusk, games that are great. Shoutouts to my man. My main game, Ultra Kill, best game in the world. Shout out to the game Dusk.
Yeah.
Still need to play it. I think I got it during the sale. I don't know. I've been really
basically it creates anything New Blood produces and also sells and also promotes.
They're part of the.
It creates that.
I wouldn't doubt they were part of like a group of people, or at least tailored to a group of people that grew up with that sort of content. And we're counterculture like us. That's something we would do.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, that's something we might actually do in our future. We might do something that tailors to us and what we view. We're niche like we enjoy niche micro celebrities. We enjoy these different types of games. So we're probably, we're probably going to be game devs in that sort or something of the sort. Me, probably. I'm going to try to at least break into YouTube, and I'm probably just going to be a pseudo Scott the Woz type. This sort of Ohioan gamer. And while my Nintendo love, I played a lot of Nintendo stuff, I'm definitely more indie focused. I like making movies, definitely different stuff. My parents are weird, so my entire foundation for what I am is weird.
Yeah, like it creates a sort of counterculture. A counterculture which inadvertently creates a secondary counterculture to the counterculture.
The way
because
people evolve and the way ideas evolve is weird.
And then it ironically creates people who are tired of the counterculture, like me, because I kind of get a little bit. I'm like, oh, another retro throwback shooter, ooh. And of course nowadays that's common now, but like rewind a couple years, that's not a thing.
I was there. I was pilgriming. I was the pilgrim of Hayden. Counterculture motherfucking shooters. I was there.
It's the same
soaking
way
in blood and bones on a battlefield in no man's land, hating games that were coming out for being blocky, for being shooters.
Yeah, and then this fatigue can also be seen with, say, the let me post the fucking GIF. The MCU.
There's the superhero fatigue, or however they put it.
Well, there's superhero fatigue, but there's also
did Riley seriously quit to call the quirky Earthbound inspired indie RPGs. Did okay. Quick update on just sort of like in the moment things that are going to be inconsequential and forgotten. Yes, like tomorrow. Riley left the call earlier today. I thought he was going to bed. He did say he was going to 100% Mario Kart again, Mario Kart Wii again. The Nintendo nerd, quote unquote. I thought he just went to bed. At 4:34, almost like 30 minutes ago, the motherfucker said fucking finally, posted a 100% image of it, and they told us to go to bed about like 10 minutes ago.
That's not bad. But yeah.
Yeah, but the quirky Earthbound indie RPG. I mean, yeah, I love those games, despite the fact that, yeah, I can understand that they're very, almost they're part of a larger culture, and
Yeah.
me and you have
Yeah.
been very sort of niche and against the flow. So yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, there's Lisa the Painful, Lisa the Joyful, like the Lisa series. And then a couple other ones. I mean, there's the Lisa fan games. I'm just a Lisa fan.
And then there's the many that came in the wake of
Amari,
Undertale.
Undertale, yeah, and
Yeah.
Undertale inspired a lot of people, especially those who just kind of were like predominantly disposed to that type of like, oh, I grew up playing Earthbound, or I like games like that, and I like things like that.
Yeah.
Undertale like basically told them like, get out onto the scene.
Yeah.
And honestly, that I mean that made a large amount of it be sort of bland, and it's like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, we've seen this before, or blah blah blah. It's another one. It's like, oh, another.
Yeah.
It's like, well, people were inspired. Granted, a lot of the good ones were created before any of that. I mean, Lisa, I believe, was created before Undertale. Amari was in production before Undertale. Stuff like that
Yeah.
was
There's all sorts of
a
things.
lot of the ones that you can think off the top of your head are definitely ones that may or may not have been produced or being in production before Undertale. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, Undertale fucking slaps.
Yeah. Yeah. All that said, it creates a ironically a counterculture always creates a counterculture, and then it goes and goes and it goes it.
It would be interesting to make a tree of like a culture tree where you see how like ideas branch off. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, the like video games are introduced, then this is how people view the video games, and then they offshoot from this, and
Yeah.
it'd be an interesting like project to work
Yeah.
on, and the podcast like have like almost have our own like evolving story, and then like almost interview people who were like there and try to get them to like remember what it was like in that sort of culture, to explore how their that sort of stuff evolved for them, what they were into, how others evolved from that. It'd be interesting. It would definitely make an
Yeah.
interesting series, sort of exploring, because like it's very interesting seeing how people viewed things in different era times and places,
Yeah.
because the media was different, the way people talked were different, the way people viewed things
Yeah.
was completely different because of the
Yeah.
stuff they absorbed.
Yeah.
Like,
And now let's tie this back. I'm gonna tie this back to the digging on multiverses shit.
do you dig on
Cause
multiverses, the
yeah.
multiverse, or just
Cause
dig on multiverses?
well, there was another thing we were talking about before we started recording, which
Yeah.
was the Gundam one.
Oh yeah, the Gundam one.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Where
If Gundam,
it was
if the
basically
dubbing studio decided to dub on something
yeah.
else.
Well, yeah. Well, the reason why
Oh yeah,
like let
let's
me set
completely
the
recover this because I really like this
yeah
one.
yeah. Basically, what it was Ocean Studios or whatever. They're basically the people in charge of dubbing Gundam in the West in the early 2000s. This is right after Gundam Wing got dubbed. A big success. It basically introduced like Gundam model kits, a whole different
Yeah.
type of toy into the West.
Without
Yes,
them,
where
Gundam definitely wouldn't be as
yeah,
popular as it is
yeah,
today.
yeah, yeah,
At least
Gundam Wing.
at
Well,
least in the
yeah,
West, in
yeah,
the
yeah. It was
America.
big. It was big. Not as big as like Dragon Ball was, but it was still pretty big.
Yeah, like
You
I
know.
mean, for us at
Yeah,
least. I mean,
and
I was just building a Gundam a model kit earlier today, so
yeah, and I
it has
was
an
building one
impact.
yesterday.
Yeah,
Well, actually, no, wait. I was building one. Was I building one yesterday? No, yeah, I was. No, wait, it was technically 2 days ago now.
it's
But, you
whatever.
know,
You're still
it's
building one recently. So
But yeah,
the crux
yeah, yeah. The crux of
of
this
what could happen
is
is
basically after this, the dubbing studio is looking at other Gundam series to dub, and they're looking at the late '90s series like Gundam X and Turn a Gundam, um, and other things, and also looking at the older Universal Century stuff, which is like the original Gundam from 1979, the OVAs, Char's Counterattack, and Sunrise pushes Universal Century because they know that sells like hotcakes because that's the main Gundam timeline and that has the most merch
yeah,
and has the most merch at any time.
and probably has an
But
updated look too. It would be a lot more
yeah,
appealing to people instead of viewing something that looks old to them, depending on
well,
the
well, actually
timeline.
no, because the thing is the first one they brought over after that was the original Gundam, which was the most dated looking.
Well, okay,
Well, yeah, because it was bringing
yeah,
over the 1979 Gundam show. Oh,
but
not even the movie compilations, but the full 43
yeah,
episode series with animation errors and all.
big
Minus
old
one
stuff.
episode, minus one episode because the creator was like, this episode looks so shitty that I will never allow it to leave the shores of Japan.
Beautiful.
But yeah, in this alternative timeline, there the late '90s Gundam shows, which in our timeline have remained subbed forever and are sort of secondary,
Yeah,
like Gundam X and Turn a Gundam. Gundam, those aren't those are brought over instead of the Universal Century stuff. Also Gundam Seed was also brought over during this time. They probably would still bring that over, even though I hate Seed, but it still probably would get brought over because it was contemporary.
yeah,
Yeah, like the part of the reason why they also considered like X specifically was because it was very close to C to no not C to Wing in art style because it was like made with most of the same staff.
yeah.
So
What's
you have the,
what's important to understand about dubbing though is that
yeah,
it creates a major appeal to people. When
yeah,
kids are growing up watching TV in the morning, the thing that they want to see is that, well, the thing they don't want to see first of all is they don't want to read.
yeah. They don't
Having
want to
an
read. Kids don't
having
like reading.
Yeah, having a sub show. I mean, some people may listening. Me personally, I mean, like I'm fine reading the subs. I enjoy a lot of it. I enjoy original like Japanese voice acting, and I mean I don't understand the language, but at least I've gotten to a point where like I understand certain inflections. I can understand
Yeah,
powerful performances, stuff like that.
yeah.
And I just enjoy
I
the
can
sub
understand that a
because
bit too.
sometimes American voice acting can be really annoying.
Yeah,
An example, the beginning of My Hero Academia dub. It was so fucking bad that I literally told my mom because I watched it with her. I'm not watching the dub. I'm not watching the dub just because of this first episode. The voice actor is so fucking annoying. The baby version of Deku was so fucking annoying.
I
I
mean that's
refused to watch it
how
dub.
kids sound in American television though.
It was so annoying though. I'm like, I'm not. I mean, we ended up moving on to the dub at
Yeah,
some other times when my mom needed to because she wanted to read while watching stuff. But still,
yeah,
but so
yeah,
a big part of the dub is being appealable to people,
yeah,
to especially
yeah,
impressionable youth, people who would absorb the content.
yeah.
If that
And
wasn't
also
the
because
case,
yeah,
if if it wasn't dubbed, or if they didn't get something that appealed to people, or just anything in general,
I
like
mean, Gundam X and Turn A didn't get released in the West for years later.
were they received well? What?
No, they were basically only DVD releases.
Oh,
With Gundam X and Turn A like got DVD releases. They like it didn't matter how they were received in
right.
Japan.
We didn't get to
They were
see.
just yeah. I mean,
I mean,
Gundam X was didn't really do as well. I mean, Wing was pretty middling received. It was received well enough that that was the one they decided to choose first, but it wasn't like the highest rated Gundam show.
we may one thing is be important to understand is we may never know what might like resound, like will
Yeah,
harmonize
Yeah,
with youth or just people who absorb the culture, they might
yeah,
hell, like we might bring in a show or series in like an alternate timeline where this got adapted first, and it might not hit off, or it might hit off well. Like
yeah,
Dragon Ball
yeah.
in
Dragon
Mexico
Ball hit off.
and yeah, the
Yeah,
yeah, South America area, like that show
yeah,
is important
yeah,
to everyone. The family name. If you grew up and not knowing who Goku is, you're a psycho. You should know who
yeah,
Goku is. He is on our
yeah.
damn mantle. I have a damn
He
statue
he
of
is.
Goku on our mantle, and no son of mine will say he hates Goku. A Piccolo fan, a Tien fan? No son of mine's gonna be a Tien fan. Beats his
Hell
son.
no, not my son.
Hell, not no son of mine.
Yeah,
You're going to ignore Tien just like everyone else, and he's gonna disappear.
yeah. As I was saying, with this alternative timeline, it changed. Even this small change of two shows could change a lot,
Yeah,
because we don't know whether or not they would have been in better received or
or
not
worse. Yeah, they
in the
would have.
West, better or worse. Most people agree that like Gundam X would have probably been received better in the West than it was on its first release, because the issue with Gundam X in Japan was they were having Gundam fatigue from having a new series every year
Yeah, makes sense.
here. So
I mean,
you
that's
like say you
similar
bring
with
over
Marvel now. Like, oh yeah,
yeah
new Marvel movie.
yeah
Spider-Man. I haven't seen the new one, but I feel like that at least for people, definitely like it's refreshed superhero
yeah
fatigue at
well yeah
least because it's been a distance. The TV shows came out that refreshed. Those were fun. I don't know.
yeah.
Yeah,
So say these shows get brought over, and a lot of people, like when I look in the comments of like Gundam videos on YouTube, you see people saying like, "Oh yeah, this was a shit when I was the kid," and it's like, "Oh yeah, I was in the U.S. military and I brought my DVD of Char's counterattack with me when I was deployed or whatever,"
oh, we're
or
fighting this
and they
war
do
in
all
Iraq, and that my bunkmate brings out a DVD player and starts playing these weird cartoons from Japan. I don't know what the
yeah
fuck he was on, but it was something. They were in these
yeah
giant mechs and they were shooting at each other. And I thought, why would you want political commentary and the horrors of war exaggerated in such a way when you are currently experiencing a war?
yeah yeah. Going back on that,
And he looked back and
on
told
what
me,
I'm saying.
Char's pretty cool.
Yeah, going back on this stuff, because you would have people experiencing instead of like what was brought over, you would be experiencing like completely different shows being brought over, which would lead to completely different influences, because
Yeah, different ways
the
people view
themes of these,
things.
yeah, different ways people would view it. Maybe also the themes of these shows are very different. Like the like the original Gundam, which is one of the shows that got brought over, is a serious war drama. Whereas Gundam X is a post-apocalyptic uh, sort of character drama with a bit of it's got a bit of it's a little bit comedic at times, but there's political drama, there's behind the scenes stuff going on. Turn A is also a bit of a political drama, but it's a 1800s at times, and also the military just ignoring people what people are saying to go fight people for no
Yeah.
reason.
And I mean, I can understand how that would have impact because, like,
Yeah,
if you saw that and then you would have that, you would internalize that information and be like, "This is annoying," or I don't vibe well with," or at least
yeah,
when I view this, I hate the government because in the show they don't listen to
yeah,
people, they don't do this stuff, and for Gundam they have a lot of political pull.
yeah.
I mean, for
But of course, the political themes are different between each
yeah.
series.
For you though,
Is
I've definitely noticed a change because I definitely remember you not paying. I mean, you're definitely not the most political person, but
well, I mean, I've always been a bit political.
definitely. But a lot of ideals. I mean, you've yeah always been political, but yeah, there's more your way of critique, your views have definitely shifted and have been inflected on by what you have absorbed in culture.
Yeah.
For Gundam, you see a lot of like hypocrisies in government systems, like just dumb Federation
Yeah.
shit. I mean, hell, you probably sympathize more with the Principality of Xeon,
Yeah, but even then, they're still
minus the
assholes.
Nazis, minus the radicalite Nazis, and this.
Yeah,
And
yeah, and that the point in Gundam is that both sides are fucking awful.
well, yeah, I mean that's the same with like Warhammer and stuff. I mean, there's a lot of like, I mean that's what good political intrigue stuff is made out of.
Yeah, is
It's
usually that it
it's
ends with both
gray.
sides being awful.
I mean, yeah, for I mean, a big flaw in the Principality of Xeon is that, from my understanding, I've only gotten osmosis knowledge of the series, is that it's made out of like multiple groups, like just spacefaring people that are like coming from different stations, stuff like that.
Come, well,
That
they're mostly from side three. It's one specific part of
yeah,
space colonies. The issue is that the higher ups are like insane,
the people in
like
power are
sycophants.
crazy, but also being
There's
a patchwork
insane.
system, like if having different, I mean, hell, in America, right? Different parts of the world, different like people who grew up in the north, grew up in the south, different ways of living, different generational places, like a computer, like growing up with a
Yeah,
computer or just being born with a computer, all that stuff makes huge differences in people, and that can lead to different outcomes of people. And so when you have a military or government force built up by different sort of people of different cultures, you could have radicalized racists and Nazis who want to exterminate a lot of people alongside, genuinely, do
genuinely fine people.
yeah. I mean, if
People that just like want to, protect their colony or whatever.
yeah, and that's an
And
interesting aspect of it too. Is that yeah, with the Principality Xeon, from my understanding, yeah, there's like definitely more looseness to it all, despite the fact that yeah, there's still a sturdy order. But like, if some random guy from a space station, where like depending on how, or like a colony in space, depending on specific aspects of how they grew up, or like their environment, like a huge part of it is their environment, that changes a lot of
yeah,
aspects, like even
and
just the simple
and then
foods they enjoy to begin with. Building
yeah,
worlds and understanding how specific things affect one another,
yeah,
from just
like the
will affect people.
differences. Like something I noticed when I was reading Crossbone Gundam, which is like a way later Gundam series, is like it shows really how differently like the characters who are like born and raised in space versus the characters who are like who grow up on Earth are,
Okay.
like how they form differences, like
On
because
top
like the
of
main conflict in this, like the main aggressing force is the Jupiter Empire, which are like people who are deep in space because it's by Jupiter.
who wants to live on Jupiter, am I right?
Well, they're not living on Jupiter, they're
What,
living in small colonies near Jupiter.
sort of orbiting or pseudo?
Yeah, orbiting.
Yeah, I mean,
And like,
it's, from what I understand, this is a Dune scenario where Jupiter has resources demanded from the rest of the world for specific things, and
yeah,
thus they have the control over a massive
yeah,
flow. In Dune,
yeah,
you need spice to travel around the world. There's only one planet that has spice, and there are currently people on there, and stuff is gonna happen.
yeah.
That's Dune.
With the Jupiter Empire, you see like how differently they operate from like the Earth sphere colonies. What?
I sorry, my brain did a quick sort of like passageway of like a zigzag where I thought about Dune. I thought about the sort of whole like political like fake lies of this sort of like Christ figure in Dune, because that's what kind of what ends up happening is they have this like sort of political lie to like keep people like whatever subservient and stuff. by
And
like
then they
saying
show
that
the
there's
Ishtar
this,
trailer.
yeah, they say that there's like this Christ figure, and then that ends up actually being sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy. And once I thought about the Christ figure, I thought, Christ King of the Moon.
Fucking Christ, King of the Moon.
The Christ King of the Moon, fucking Naruto himself. Sorry,
Naruto himself, Christ, King of the Moon.
sorry, my brain just formed those passageways. And I'm like, God damn it.
Yeah, but yeah. The whole thing with like the Jupiter Empire, you see how differently they are. They're not like their sense of gravity is completely different because they're not near Earth.
That
Like all like their mobile suits have to be designed to deal with Jupiter's extreme gravity, and the parts that are in like zero gravity, like they use their space completely differently. Like you'll have like a restaurant that has like people dining on the ceiling, walls, and floor
yeah,
because
there's no up or
it's all
down, or
subjective.
yeah, it's in space. Everything is basically relative and subjective. So the way you can utilize space is a lot different, and that's where good
Yeah,
world building comes in.
yeah,
The environment changes, and so the way people exploit or use the environment changes too, and thus
yeah,
changes specific things. Designs can differ from how like Viking aesthetic is born from the fact that what they have, like
yeah,
in the cold they probably, and like what little armor that I have, and like lack of like forges or smithing would lead to very specific things. That's why from their environment, from cold areas, raiding, or just whatever lifestyles they had they had what they had, and that's why they looked like that. And similar for just how humans evolve. Like humans evolve based
yeah,
upon their areas, and that's why like even some specific areas would breed based upon specific like contingencies or reasonings, and that's why people are different. That's why some people are born better than others doing specific things. There's a lot to world building that's so much fun, and there's so much
yeah.
different ways things are implied and go off each other, and everything just pulls at each other and is very interesting. It creates this nice fabric. That's what building is, this blanket
And,
that
yeah,
has
and like
different threads that all affect each other.
Gundam does this really well because, like, when
Yeah.
you look at like the Earth surrounding colonies, like while they are going in like while they do have a cylinder shape and there's stuff all along the walls, it still feels like when you're in a colony, it's made to replicate Earth as opposed to the Jupiter colonies, which don't do that. Like when you go to a restaurant in a colony, it's like you're in a restaurant on Earth,
Yeah.
except for maybe the gravity is less. And then another thing to notice is like, especially in the earlier series, mobile suits can't fly under gravity. Like you'll see in like the original series, you'll see the Gundam jumping around on Earth with its thrusters, but it won't fly around.
Yeah, it makes sense. I
Yeah,
feel like
and then in
there's
like
rule. I feel like there's rules in a Lancer that are very similar too.
yeah,
Like you can fly in zero
yeah,
gravity environments, but you get like some
yeah,
boost off in Earth in or like gravity
yeah, and
environments.
then in Zeta Gundam, they show like mobile suits having to go on to little subflight platforms, which basically give them. It's like it's like the Green Goblin glider.
Yeah, similar to that.
Imagine that, but like way wider. It's more like basically it's a platform. You put your mobile suit on, and then it can fly under gravity. Though it's technically not the mobile suit that's flying under gravity.
Yeah.
It's just riding on something that is.
Well, it makes sense though. I mean, it's a good way to
Yeah,
utilize. I mean, you wouldn't have to put a bunch of expensive parts on your mobile suit. You
yeah,
would have an externalized solution to something instead of designing it in.
yeah,
It's an
yeah.
interesting way of handling things.
And like there are
Obviously,
shown to be there are
feelings.
yeah
Yeah,
there are shown to be various mobile suits that do fly under gravity, but they have concessions made. Like there's the suit, the Byerland. Let me get an image of the Byerland. where it's basically the suit has had to be designed around being able to fly under gravity, and it's the whole point of the suit.
Yeah, it creates a whole different design aesthetic when you're trying to achieve something.
Yeah,
Usually with the focus on first. I mean, that's the case with things like playing space engineers, designing
yeah,
specific things around purposes, and then you kind of evolve your shapes from that. I had an idea for a sort of like Dune Strider, sort of like dual wing thing, and so I designed it. Obviously, there was a lot of problems with it because it's a sort of big, long, like sort of pseudo sled on a desert planet, and it ends up colliding with a lot of the dunes, and it ended up being really funky.
yeah,
But then it ended up I made a space variant of it, and I love the design of it. Yeah, you can.
yeah,
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 I'll probably forget to add this in, but
yeah.
find the thing. Find the thing,
Like,
Bragan. I'll save it. I'll save this image and add it
yeah,
in.
like you can see the thrusters inside the thing, and like there's no like external weapons on this thing. It's all like it's very lightly armed, as its entire purpose is just get the machine into the air.
Get that thing
And I
flying.
mean, it does. Yeah, get the thing flying, and it does fly.
It needs to fly.
And then you'll see in like later parts of Gundam, you'll see after like 50 years or so have passed, then you'll see that a lot of mobile suits, because of their downsizing due to in universe and out of universe reasons, they're smaller now. So now and with advancements in flight technology, now most mobile suits can fly around without the little platforms.
It's a neat little
So it's
thing.
yeah, like
What?
in Victory Gundam, you'd notice it. You'd be able to notice it a lot, where all these mobile suits can just fly around under gravity. Some of them do it through thruster systems, while others found like beam way to make fucking beam helicopters. Don't ask me how the beam rotors work. It's fucking
That
stupid,
sounds
but
stupid as hell. It's like
it's
those
stupid.
Inquisitors and Sauron's rebels that fly with their lightsabers.
It literally is.
It's
It
so fucking
literally is.
stupid.
It
Like
literally is
a
the beam
lightsaber,
light.
a lightsaber practically has zero to none aerodynamic qualities. What the hell are you talking about? They're flying around with these things. That's stupid as
Of course,
hell.
of course, beam sabers in Gundam aren't quite the same thing as a lightsaber. Like I
Yeah,
think
I mean,
how beams in Gundam work is technically it's like superheated metal.
ooh,
I think it's superheated. It's superheated particles. So maybe it'll create some lift. I don't know.
aren't superheated particles just plasma?
Fuck it. I don't.
Uh,
Man, I don't know how
yeah,
it
we're
works.
not gonna
It's
dive
based.
into the science of something that we don't know off the top of our heads. But it is
Yeah,
interesting seeing how designs are affected by the world that they're in. For
yeah,
example, if you had a resource, like if you had a lack of resources, a deficiency in
yeah,
resources, or just a lack of a specific resource, the
yeah.
way you would develop things would be a lot different. Like if
Oh
you,
yeah, that's again.
yeah.
Fuck. I feel like a douchebag for keep bringing out Gundam.
No, man. I mean, I'm gonna keep trying to pull it into generalized concepts for
Yeah,
people to understand. You keep bringing it into Gundam, which I'm fine with because I
yeah,
like Gundam too, and it's a good way to get people into it itself. Is like it's interesting. It's got good world building.
yeah.
This is the world building
Like
implications. This is the actual. This is like an appliance. This is how it works in
yeah.
an example, like Gundam.
In yeah, in Crossbone Gundam, because the Jupiter Empire is they're a bit strapped for resources. They have to
Yeah,
conserve things.
they're
When going up against the
Neptune,
main Gundam of the show,
or Jupiter,
uh,
Jupiter.
and basically they don't have the budget to make one suit that's like overall better than the Gundam of the show. Well, it's a manga. Fucking. So instead, they make three suits which excel in different things,
Yeah.
since they can't afford to make one that does it all.
There's a couple ways of running with resource efficiency. There could be the idea that you could have these very sort of run down, almost scrapped together things. Like it would be interesting to see in Gundam a Gundam like scrapped together out of like colony parts, just rocking with things.
Actually,
That
there is
yeah,
there is one. There is one that's made of like old mobile suit parts.
I wouldn't be surprised. Similar in even Star Wars. There's been cases of people scrapping together what's around, like post-war scrappers. Yeah, the die wing.
Yeah.
I mean, they work with what's in their environment, so they come up with these things that are fusions of what's available to them, and that's a fun way of also reincorporating designs in new ways, and like use like very interesting things in reincorporating parts from a colony. You could get very interesting like architecture on a Gundam, if you're resource efficient, you'll have like very skimpy, lacking Gundams, or you literally just have one Gundam that you just put all your resources in and just hope to God it does not blow up, because that's the last thing you have. If it dies, you're done for. If you don't have enough resources, you can split into as many as you can, or not as many as you can, but just enough to deal with. 3 is a pretty good choice. Being able to specifically, whatever. The way that Jupiter handles it is a good way of doing it.
Yeah.
Tactically safe. If one blows up, at least you have multiple. Because if you did put all your resources on one Gundam, which would be a move that would probably be born out of desperation, or just a lack of resources and just enough for one, and you have you can just make it. Obviously, it creates a huge risk if someone with a gun comes out and shoots you. I thought someone was coming in to yell at me for being too loud.
Was it just your dad waking up for work?
Yeah, ain't that neat? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what happens when I fall asleep watching JoJo for 5 hours. How long is the new part of JoJo?
I don't know how many episodes are out right now.
There's 12 episodes.
Okay.
I don't know how long each one runs, but it's a good 2 hours, 3 hours, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know how long, but from almost breakfast time, or a little after 12, to 2, and then waking up at 7.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've been hibernating lately. It's hibernating season for me.
Yeah.
That happens. I think this happens before, so it might just be a seasonal thing. But yeah, world building. We do need to finish off the concepts of the Mileyverse, but let's finish and actually go through the full thought process of the Gundam stuff currently.
Yeah, the idea is the thing with the change in what gets adapted with that one is that it also changes what is influenced afterwards.
Yeah.
Because
if you make
seeing Seiko,
that's how it continues to go. From there's Zaku evolutions for an example.
You can trace many many mecha designs back to the original Gundam, and oh shit, I hit a chair.
They almost all have the same. There's a lot of Gundams that share very similar shapes and types. For example, there's the helmet designs being similar, shit like that.
Yeah,
and that's just from what it works. Why? Don't break what works. They fit to fill a specific criteria, and if they have a working cockpit or a working helmet or working head, you don't really need to change it unless tailoring to a specific form. And half the time, they're not really being oh, we need the optics to be better. It's the optics are fine.
Yeah.
We're not, unless we're making a super sniper that can see from miles away, we don't need a new helmet. This one gets the job done. And obviously there can be slight design changes, but that's just could be with the increasing with tech. It's okay, we got better eyes.
Or we have trying to make the suit look more unique.
There's also a very similar thing where it's what's available, what they have an abundance of. if
Yeah.
if they have an abundance of high grade cameras, they're going to use high grade cameras. If you have low grade cameras, you're going to, even if you have a high grade option, you're only going to use that in specific cases, and that comes true with in like real life counterparts, where like we may have like in almost theoretically or even actually like very expensive high grade quality stuff, like people made drones that can fly and stuff, and like with these specific parts, the same time, these things are not readily available or like in massive supply. There aren't like multiple factories pumping out like high end motors, so
Yeah.
there is no like readily accessible like consumer version of like a drone that can pick people up like people have made before. Because yeah, there's not enough money. There's not a consistent audience for that, and there's different aspects that affect that. But that's certainly something. It's interesting to view. I really like this sort of world building talk. Are you wrapped up with Gundam talk, or do we? It's just
Yeah.
more.
I'd say so.
Okay. So the Miley verse,
Yeah,
you dig on multiverses.
let's dig
So
on Miley versus.
for Miley Cyrus to be basically, if we're just going to say slot into the role where Logan Paul is, a popular YouTuber around this time period, there would be a couple things. One, I believe either YouTube would be in the position that it was in back in the day, or Miley Cyrus got popular later, born
Yeah.
later, or something like that. Obviously, for her to be in a position, in basically a position to be able to get to that place, she would need to go through Disney still, probably.
Yeah.
And I
But then
believe,
that would also change Disney as well, because they
yeah,
wouldn't have the hit of Miley Cyrus beforehand.
yeah. I mean, they might rock. I mean, maybe Justin Bieber would have been that replacement. Maybe
Yeah.
the sort of
Who
appealing
knows?
to the female audience, and be this sort of Disney star instead of being maybe a musician as much as he was. He would just be sort of like a character. This TV
Yeah.
character like Miley Cyrus sort of stuff. So yeah, she would have to get popular later for specific things for her to be in a. I mean, granted, at the same time, she would be put in a position where that sort of like female audience boom wasn't as predominant, so there
Yeah,
wouldn't
because
be.
Miley Cyrus could have also Hannah Montana came out in a time of a lot of girl led shows.
Yeah, and that's
Like
just, and when you think about that time, you think about like these like almost blood
young women.
starved like crazy like fangirls.
Yeah,
I mean,
which is
that's,
honestly what we have the same way now with
yeah, it
with Minecraft
it's
YouTubers.
this sort of like cycle that it's like another sort of wave of
Yeah,
like female
like
predominant audiences with these sort of cult almost inducted in
yeah, with
fans of
that
Dream,
also
and like,
Twilight too.
oh yeah, Twilight was a surgence of that. One Direction, I believe, was a bit of a time a
Oh
link
yeah,
between the others.
One Direction was atrocious.
I've had experiences where a school I was in sold in an auction, a school auction. They sold away a picture of a One Direction like poster. It's like that's what you're giving away. That wow. And I know
But
there's
yeah,
like a lot of like girls in that school that and that time like enjoyed it. But yeah, whatever. Culty dream stuff, whatever. Multiple
yeah, and of course,
pedophiles
guys
that
are
want
the
to
same.
bang the freaking current YouTube stars.
Tubbo
Yeah,
anus.
Tubbo, just fantasizing about these characters, like these people, which is just weird. But
Yeah,
anyways, so so yeah, honestly though, it makes sense though if she basically moved into, if she was like at the time, if she basically replaced Logan Paul at the time, she would get into Disney where she wouldn't be as popular. Maybe, I think.
Yeah,
Was Logan Paul
because
in during that time, or was that just
he
because?
was he was later than he was way afterwards. Like let me let me find like the show he was in was called like Bizarre Vark.
Okay, so a bit of a distance, I believe. I
Yeah,
think
Bizarre Vark started airing in 2016 and then ended in 2019. And
that is weird to think about.
yeah, yeah. So
Logan Paul
yeah,
boom was like almost recent, like very recent,
yeah, yeah,
even
yeah.
if it is a couple years off. So there's a couple things. Yeah, we could consider this world where she just swapped places with birth
Yeah.
of Logan Paul and Miley Cyrus and Logan Paul would basically and even Jake Paul would switch places, and that would mean that the Hannah Montana show would probably either be a Justin Bieber focused show a um or a Logan Paul sort of like boy toy almost exploitative sort of where they appeal to the female
Yeah,
audience that was surging around that time with those two at a youngish age and try to at
yeah,
least keep it female focused. What could be what could come after that is unknown. We don't know what could like be produced from
yeah.
that.
We don't know. It would change other shows that come later as well.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean the way that they would run the show entirely would be like weird. It's like if they're making
And
these
would it
two
even be a
actors.
success?
I mean, who knows? I mean, I could see a female audience just absolutely wanting to watch a Logan Paul, Jake Paul, early sort of like this female focused or at least female sold towards or aimed at show. I could see that happening
Yeah.
because, well, I mean, I don't know. They're they're jock types, so they are quote
I mean,
unquote
well, then,
desirable
but then
to
again,
mass.
if they were forced earlier on, then
That might be
they
also a
might not
thing.
have. Yeah, if they were forced earlier if they were in an earlier time period, they might not have taken on the jock persona because of their youth.
Yeah.
They might have ended up more like a Jacob Sartorius.
It just depends on like how. I mean, if they were raised. I mean, if like the way they were raised originally was to get to them into a point of like getting into that Disney sphere, the way that they're raised would probably like acting focused, but like probably born from in a place where like that's where most people come from. We would have to really go into like the origin story of them and how they would
Yeah,
and then they would be able to see how they sort of like if they were able to even able to get into the Disney sphere at all and then blah blah blah
yeah.
whatever other stuff after that, but putting Miley
Mhm.
Cyrus into the position where she would be Logan Paul, she'd probably have a show and she wouldn't be during that sort of female hit wave, so she wouldn't be as
Yeah, wouldn't have
popular.
like wouldn't have like the Lizzie McGuires,
Yeah,
the That's So Ravens, the Corey in the House. I know that's not female led, but that was at the same time.
yeah,
Wouldn't have
but
wouldn't it wouldn't be in the Disney sitcom boom.
yeah. And so, who knows? She might have been on like a one-off show like that place, and then basically move on down to YouTube. Now, here's where the puzzle, the conundrum really starts, is how Logan Paul and Jake Paul growing up changed the way the internet was to a point where basically this vacuum of where Logan and Jake Paul was, how it's going to change if Hannah Montana, whatever, was filling that role.
Yeah.
Like,
Would she even be able to fill that
yeah,
role?
would she be able to fill that role? Would she appeal to an
Would
audience that may have been inflected upon or changed from Logan and Jake Paul on their show growing up?
yeah, would
Because the way that
if they
show would
even
felt like
or if they'd even saw the show. They
like
might not have.
if I mean hell if they had like if Logan and Jake Paul almost had what they would want, right? If they had some say in how the show went and while still trying to appeal to a female audience but also being like I don't know
Yeah,
For
but that's not
example,
how the
like
Disney shows work. It's a Disney sitcom. They wouldn't have control at all.
okay, but like
So the
how would you run it?
Ohio-ness of them wouldn't
How would you
the
run it
Ohio-ness of
though?
them wouldn't.
Like,
Maybe it would end up like Sweet Life of Zack and Cody.
yeah,
Maybe.
I mean, like if you were given, like, you probably wouldn't want to make it as like female, despite the fact you want to definitely pitch it towards like young women, young girls. The focus of it would change because you are running with two male leads, and you probably can't go for the whole female empowerment or this sort of angle that Hannah Montana ran with. And
Yeah, it
so,
would be a completely different angle,
and
and
I don't remember if Hannah Montana like popularized, like pioneered that sort of like female led predominant area. That would change the
it was
entire Disney lineup.
among.
We might have an early like Zack and Cody run up, and we might have different stars coming into popularity then.
I mean, I think Hannah Montana and Zack and Cody were concurrent. Like they were going around at the same time.
So, do you think that would cause, especially if Zach, I mean, not, if Jake and
If,
Logan Paul were played as sort of like a quote unquote boy toy, or not boy toy, but like a sort of like meat for little girls, this sort of like peddling Jonas Brothers like focused, like,
yeah, because they did there. Oh yeah, there was a Jonas Brothers show
dude,
during that time too.
fucking the TV booted up, and it was on this MTV music channel, shit. It was goddamn motherfucking Jonas Brothers were on that shit, and I fucking yelled out loud, the fuck Jonas. I was like, not like fuck Jonas, but like what the fuck? And I'm like getting like, Tessa, the Jonas Brothers were on the TV, Dad, blah, stuff like that. I'm like, what the fuck? So yeah, Jonas Brothers was the sort of
Might
like
have.
putting these like boys on a platter for a female audience. And so would
Yeah.
Logan and Jake
Which.
be on the similar boat? This sort of like,
Yeah.
oh hey, look at
Okay,
these boys,
like the
am I
thing is,
right?
like,
Hey.
would they be attempted to would Disney attempt to turn them into pop stars?
Yeah, they
Can they
might be
even sing?
musician. I don't know. And if they couldn't sing, they might either A, never get popular and never be able to fill that role, or B, the way that they were in the way that sort of things ran would be a lot different. We might see, I mean, if Hannah Montana affected a lot of the ongoing sort of like female oriented shows, that would change. If they were in that position, it would change what the lineup would be. If they had two shows on the air that were sort of like The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, or hell, I mean, Jake and Logan could replace Zack and Cody. They could be
Yeah.
filling that role, and someone else could be filling the Hannah Montana void, this female
Yeah.
led thing, and how they fill that
Yeah,
void
some other actress.
would be completely different. But from what happens here
Yeah.
could affect how the internet changes. Now, the internet changes could affect how Hannah
And
Montana
also,
is received in the future and in this role.
also something else to consider is the fact that Hannah Montana got into her position partially because of her father, or because her father had one hit wonderdom.
It would make sense for her to be able to get into a Disney show in a
Yeah.
almost leadership
Yeah.
position and then fall off just because she's not in the sort of popular swell.
Yeah.
So
But the thing
her
is,
being in, because I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Logan and Jake Paul were in a similar boat where just connections got them in. So
yeah.
it's just I don't know how that would change that much besides just a guaranteed Disney.
Yeah, but here's the thing though. If we're moving Miley Cyrus later, it could end up leading to Billy Ray Cyrus, him not having as much relevancy and being not as able to get his daughter in.
Well, I mean, that would make sense. It would probably just get her a bit part, like an extra instead of a mainstay.
Yeah.
And then she would fall off the Disney sphere, and then
Yeah.
that's when the YouTube would hit. Would be like, people know me from my show. there's an audience that I can appeal
Yeah,
to, but there's a couple problems. The audience that
because
she's
like
appealing to is, if we're working off the Logan and Jake Paul audience, Ohio, this sort of, just general mass, when you think of just general people, would that appeal? Would a Hannah Montana appeal, especially on how she grew up?
yeah, yeah. Like consider this: the reason why
Consider the following.
her like why her father got big was because he had his one hit wonder, which was "Achy Breaky Heart" and this fucking country song, which is
Yeah.
very much way more southern
Right.
than
She had a
say
bit of a country vibe, didn't she?
yeah, yeah, that. And also remember the one hit wonder, the thing that gave Billy Ray his fame, which then allowed Miley to get her fame off of his fame. Billy Ray's one hit wonder was released in 1992.
Okay. So I've gotten a couple information from this, gleaming from this, is that one, Hannah Montana fills the pseudo Southern role for general mass, the
Yeah,
Ohio sort of populace. It's
yeah,
yeah,
and
like, I mean, there are people at our school who listen to country music,
yeah,
and so the other part is, if she's getting into YouTube, that implies several things of the sort of like almost hype beast esque
oh
area.
yeah, the hype beasts.
Because I believe Jake and
Because
Logan Paul fell in the hype beast
yeah,
category,
they
didn't
are
they?
hype beasts.
So
They were mega hype beasts.
depending on the
So
time that she got into the
so yeah,
YouTube
that would leave.
sphere, and just the way that
Yeah,
she
that
got
would
into it, would imply multiple things on who she might be,
she would
depending.
either she might become a hype beast, either that or there would be a void in major hype beasts.
Yeah.
Also,
I mean,
another
that
thing to
might
note
mean
is
like
like
someone like Rice Gum or someone like that, or like another YouTuber that didn't pop off as much might fill that void.
yeah,
Either that, or she
yeah,
fills the
rice,
void, which we need to consider.
yeah, rice. I like Rice Gum as fucking Idubbbz put it. He's the Asian Jake Paul.
Yeah, and
Well,
he could
so he
appeal
might have taken the role for further.
if the reason why he did not get popular as much is because large people amount of from Ohio are racists,
Racist.
and they're like, no,
Yeah,
no, no, no person
no
of
way.
non-white, pure white descent are gonna be a hype beast. I'm not gonna let you watch that, son.
Yeah.
So that's a
Uh,
possibility, depending.
Also, another thing to note for just a timeline of things, like
Debating if the reason why Rice Gum isn't as popular is because Ohio is racist. Anyways,
yeah,
yeah, another thing to consider. Yeah, what's up?
another thing to consider is oh my battery drains fast. No,
It's
not that.
it's
Fucking
late. We've gone on for
well, no,
an hour
I
40.
like I said like a second ago I was looking at it and it was like 90%, and now it's at like 68.
It's 6 a.m.
Uh,
Jesus.
yeah. Hannah Montana started 2006 for timeline's sake,
Okay.
and let me check when did Jake Paul get big.
I mean, probably after a show, so like
Yeah, well, yeah.
2015 esque.
Well, no. Bizarre started in 2016, and then he got
Oh,
fired.
okay, a little later than that. So like
So
2017.
he went viral. There are articles saying how YouTube star Jake Paul went viral in late 2017. So we're gonna say it's 2017. And of course, also something to consider is the post Disney career of these hypothetical uh, Paul brothers. Because you know what happened to fucking what's her name Miley Cyrus post her Hannah Montana career. It was like it's a big mess. It's why we call her a creature.
Creature.
she's, she's a bit of a creature,
Yeah.
a bit mentally unstable by most degrees. You know,
Makes sense to me.
because of her time as a child star and her time as Hannah Montana and all that
I
bullshit.
mean, yeah,
And
definitely popping into the Disney sphere and getting straight out, and then popping on YouTube. Definitely, maybe she probably fall in the same boat where like Logan and Jake Paul are in the similar position of just currently pulling boxers out of retirement and beating the shit out of them.
well, yeah, well, no, not that.
But
I'm
no,
talking about like
except
the
Miley
where,
Cyrus isn't going to be pulling
but
pulling like someone out of retirement and beating the shit out of them. What she would be,
yeah,
the activities and the content of her channel are going to be interesting.
yeah,
Granted, not a lot of
and
people are
and the,
familiar with like the actual like, or at least me at least are familiar with like Logan and Jake Paul's content
content.
besides
Also, what would these?
the forest
What I yeah,
and the oh look, I'm colorblind.
yeah.
So I mean, would Miley Cyrus do scummy things?
Yeah, and also consider where would the Paul brothers be in this hypothetical scenario? Would they have their mental breakdown like how Miley did in our scenario in our actual timeline?
Did Zach and Cody ever fall off?
Yeah, did Zach and Cody get more popular? Who knows?
I don't know.
Would it create a different sort of chain of events? Would it create different shows?
I feel like following how Zach and Cody worked would be a good way to work with Logan and Jake Paul
Yeah,
because they're very much in the same boat. If they're
yeah,
put in that sort of same time period, they're both going to be received almost exactly the same. And that might
yeah,
also, yeah, that might mean that Logan and Jake Paul might not get in at all because there's already that place filled.
yeah. With Zach and Cody, this is the sweet life.
So we could consider a couple things. We could consider a possibility where Logan and Jake Paul do not switch places; they just cease to exist.
They get aborted.
Yeah, I mean that could be an option, or just like
Yeah,
slight
and
changes.
then
Slight changes just lead to a slight different population. Just some people
yeah,
in with
and
some different people, and like not much changes. General populace stays the same. It's just that those two were never born. The only changes would be, yeah, Montana was basically pushed later in life to exist.
and then that also leaves an empty time slot on Disney Channel though,
Well,
which then
yes, it would be
might have
filled
been
up
filled
by.
with by some other unknown show
I mean,
that comes from the ether.
it depends what that show could be. I mean,
What show?
I don't think basically pushing Miley Cyrus's birth later would change a female flux, and
Oh yeah, yeah, of
so
course. Because she was
yeah,
a little later. Because first there was like Lizzie McGuire, and then
a female consumer flux. So what would change would probably be a sort of like a non Miley Cyrus, like, yeah, Lizzie McGuire might fill the
yeah,
role of Miley Cyrus, and then just some no name like would be like a secondary to all this.
yeah, some other true unfortunate child star would get put in
Yeah,
that position.
someone who like just were like on the like lost a thread, like lost by a thread on like auditioning. They're like, we don't have a position for you, you didn't make it, blah blah blah. It's like, we need another one, here's like whatever, this is available, this child star auditioning. So who knows, like someone auditioning
Yeah,
years ago might be in that position. That's a good way to take it, but the same, that would mean a couple things. I mean, it would make the equation a lot easier for us. We wouldn't have to consider like a different affected world. Lizzie McGuire would be a Hannah Montana clone, basically, a fill-in, and could mainly assume that the world would stay almost completely consistent. I mean,
yeah.
do you think of any radical changes that could come from the fact that Lizzie McGuire would be in the position?
Well, I mean, no, Lizzie McGuire's position wouldn't change because she's an earlier show. It would be some
Oh,
other
she was over
show.
show.
Yeah, because Lizzie
Yeah.
McGuire is one of the first shows that kicked that off,
So
and then you've got That's So Raven and
okay.
other Disney sitcoms. So some other unknown Disney sitcom would come to be in place of Hannah Montana.
So okay,
You know, to fill the time slot.
so there's ways to interpret this. A, Lizzie McGuire gets more popular because of the void, and just people have
Well, I
to
think
flock to her. Or B, the fill-in for Miley Cyrus gets to be just a Miley Cyrus replacement.
yeah, could be that. Like, let me. When did Lizzie McGuire end? I know Lizzie McGuire started out in 2001.
Oh
Uh,
man, 9/11's a bad time to start, am I right? Bam! Girl
and then
power,
yeah,
airport security.
Lizzie McGuire was already over before Hannah Montana started.
Okay. So she set the building blocks, basically. So A,
Yeah,
she could
and there was
have.
also That So Raven going on, and other Disney sitcoms.
So there's some ways to interpret this. A, her career is extended to basically riding on the popularity of the lack of a Hannah Montana being put into existence. Like, oh, we can't find any actors, or we don't have any ideas. This show's still relevant, or there's a female flux coming on, and we need a fill in. We need someone to entertain the crowd. So either that's a Raven gets really popular, or Lizzie McGuire just stays on the air and
Or
is.
Corey in the House
Oh
2.
my God, Corey in the House. Oh my God, Corey in the House would become the popular predominant show absorbed by many, and that could have multiple implications. Like if
Yeah,
this female consumer
such as
flux.
the actor becoming a sexual predator later on.
Yeah, and the
Oh wait,
fact that
that's really
a consumer female flux would, I mean, it was weird to say sexualize him, but like set standards for what they see in a person and a partner would change based
on
upon
Corey.
to Corey. So
Corey.
there are a lot of things that could change.
Yeah, Corey in the House debuted in 2007, so I imagine it gets put into production a year earlier.
They just all become sexually attracted to politicians, slightly overweight balding men.
The exaggerated swagger of a slightly overweight black teen.
Cause Corey was not bald, but like, well, I guess bald, right?
He's got that kind of slightly shaved cut,
Yeah, sort of slight shaved. I mean,
Yeah,
it
the
could
one where if
set
you
us.
fuck it up, then you gotta go bald.
Yep, we're going bald. I mean, it could it could be viewed as like if you were growing up with that. I mean, obviously, and then I mean, depending on the time of period you're in, like the time.
But then would Ohio hate it because it's got a black man in it?
Oh shit! It could I mean, a countercultural movement, like at least pretty large, could be sort of like a rock and roll type movement where yeah, it's this sort of all these kids being very rebellious, being like, I'm gonna do this instead.
I'm gonna watch Corey in the House, Dad. You can't stop
I'm gonna
me.
watch Curry in the House because he's black. No, you can't do that. I'm from Ohio. We're
Come
painting Ohio very negatively
Well, yeah, because fuck Ohio.
because we can say that because we live here, and if I live here, I have the right to complain about it. God damn it.
Fuck Ohio.
My Ohio is shite, mate. I don't know. I haven't seen any blatant rampant racism, but I've definitely, there's definite undertones, and I wouldn't be, and there are definitely people out there who are racist in Ohio, but at the same time, there's
Yeah,
plenty everywhere else, and it's just kind of a byproduct of a a
of
farming
being
state.
pseudo so.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it comes from originally being a farming place. Farming was made easier via slave labor. This sort of growing up and believing that you are better than a fucking race of people, and then they gain freedom, and then sort of you already have this disposition towards them, and then you pass it on to your kids, and that keeps going, and it just it basically gets to the
Creates a
point.
lost cause.
It gets to the point where people nowadays will raise their kids believing these brainwashy things, believing that a specific race of people are below you from these like just
From
completely
bullshit.
just complete fucking bullshit.
Yeah, and then you have JonTron coming out with the black crime statistics.
Oh my god.
Okay. I only said that because I was scrolling through YouTube and I saw a fucking JonTron video.
Yeah, he watches the dislike videos. It's pretty good. I watched that today. It was pretty good. Unless it's a different one that got
Yeah,
recommended.
it was that one.
Yeah. It's
But
a
yeah,
pretty good. He calls his mom in the video. It was really funny.
the fucking this change in things that happen, it can lead to a lot of things.
Yeah.
Another show getting more popular instead of Hannah Montana, an unknown show being developed from the ether.
Yeah.
A
The
show that we've never heard of, a show that could have been revolutionary. We don't know. It probably would have just been another shitty Disney
okay.
sitcom.
Okay, we're gonna talk in fantastical, almost avoiding large portions of logic. Here's the view. Corey in the House becomes a basically absorbs the vacuum. It basically gets popular because of the vacuum left by a lack of Miley Cyrus actually existing. So
Yeah.
Corey in the House becomes a very popular show. It extends its runtime. Uh, who knows? I mean, Corey
Corey become
might still be a bit of a
instead.
cretin. But
Yeah, instead of Miley Cyrus having a mental breakdown at like the Emmys, instead we have Corey.
okay. But what's important? Here's what's important. This popularization of the show due to the lack of a other show causes a large portion of the people to be a almost countercultural movement like rock and roll, where a lot of people are absorbing this content that racists would not enjoy. So there's a large point of people.
Raven in the House would probably get a boost from this as well.
Yeah.
Because
well, yeah, they get a boost too. But
show.
there's plenty of like we're just gonna like kind of just be very not fine whatever. We're just being very blunt about like just generalizations right now. So with this counterculture movement, it basically almost completely wipes out a form of thinking. This is a way to basically raise a large portion of children to believe a separate thing. So in this fantastical world where Corey in the House is one of the most popular TV shows and like is fawned over by like a female audience, having also a different view. One, maybe political change might occur from just pull from like the perspective unknown maybe, but definitely maybe some more. It'd definitely be with just the themes of the show with a sort of
the political intrigue of Corey in the House.
The political intrigue of Corey in the House might change the way that specific things are done, and who knows? We might have a just more, more balanced out female oriented government system, or there might be females like that want to get that
Brock early.
Yeah, Brock early, or a government or more like government figures being women. There might be serious changes in that field because they're like, oh, I love watching Corey in the House. There's the whole government angle of it. It's like I thought that would be interesting, and like I watched the show and I thought it would be interesting, and so like they got into politics. Even though like obviously Corey in the House is maybe not the best gateway towards politics, but it's definitely something to be like, oh, I'm interested in that. Or like that seems like an area that I would be interested in or want to check out. So there's more people, women, girls specifically, getting into that field. So then on top of the fact that they're going counterculture on the maybe racism, so there is a large predominant amount of women in power. There's going to be a large amount of women that are going to raise their kids to not be racist. We just wiped out racism and we just made a better government. Thank you, Corey in the House, and thank you, Hannah Montana, for not existing.
So was it? Maybe that'll make less people be racist towards Obama when he becomes president, and then and then he doesn't drone strike that wedding.
I don't think the reason why the Obama drones strike a wedding was because people were racist to him. Boo-hoo! People were bullying me on Twitter. Let me go drone strike a hospital. I'm gonna have to maybe trim some of these segments. This segment. Mainly the part where I just said Jay Schlett made a joke about this, but he never directly said anything about it. He just said, "Don't search up this hospital name," which I shall put ominously. I'm going to. I'll review it later. I'll review this footage later, and we'll peer review if this part can fly. But yes. Thanks to Corey
listen,
in the house.
I'm not right wing.
But no. Here's the dark future variant. Boom boom.
Dark future.
Everyone loves Corey.
Zach and Cody.
Everyone loves Corey in the house, but due to a twist of fate, a roll of dice, a series of butterfly effects, he's ousted as a pedophile, and because of a large predominant audience, not only being a political power, different aspects, everyone comes out as pedophile to support Corey, and the entire world is now full of pedophiles. But there's no racism.
But we already are in a world filled with pedophiles.
But there's racism. And a lot more open about it. And
no, they're still pretty open about it.
Okay, well, but if people are still open about it, people find the Twitter and usually shame them, and usually they'll get basically flogged by the internet. So
what you're saying?
So a future where you could say
Corey in the house. So because Corey diddles kids in the house.
Yeah.
You're saying that that pedophiles would become more accepted because Corey diddled a kid in the house.
Yeah, but you could say something bad on Twitter and you'd be people would be fine with it. For example, something.
So what you're saying is Corey stands run the government, and you can diddle kids because Corey stands.
Yep.
That's the dumbest shit I've ever fucking heard.
Well, Kieran, you could say something fucking really, really. You could say something super, super bad on Twitter and get away with it. I mean, not super bad on Twitter, but you could basically oust yourself as a pedophile. Something like. Any examples of what you could say on your Twitter.com?
I throw rocks at children unironically.
I thought you... Okay. I don't know. Talk about, diddling kids or something.
I'm not having you get audio of me saying any of those things.
I've been wanting to say very funny things and be like, oh, that's going to be funny out of context. Except I'm like, what if I could get Kieran to say it? I'd have fuel for any fire. I'd have gunfire for any fire.
Children's heads with rocks.
But I have plenty of audio clips of you saying that. You're not giving me any ammo. I already have it. I already have this caliber. Give me something new.
If I was born in Britain, instead of using rocks, I'd be using a shiv.
I still love visceral imagery of people just running up to people on the street, shivving them, and then just them falling to the ground bleeding. Just multiple, just constant versions of that imagery is so fucking funny to me. Just and then just
also bad. I had a dream the other night that also was a dig on multiverses.
You dig on multiverses?
It was a dream where Disney owned Venture Bros.
Oh, no, stop. Not funny. Not funny. Stop it. That's no. There's so much that could go wrong with that. It would be classically animated, sure, and it would, but they might move on to 3D because of Disney's weird 3D push. Oh, that's gross, and it'd be so kid friendly too, which remove literally all the appeal. Fuck,
Oddly enough, it was more like exploitative, for lack of a better term, raunchy.
exploitative? Really?
Yeah,
Why?
exploitative and raunchy. Not like sophisticated, but just raunchy. Like
That's weird. I didn't. That's a weird way of thinking about it.
with more hookers.
That's weird. I mean, a big part of the show is literally that it's just pioneered by I forgot their names. I usually Doc whatever Public and like
Public and Public and Hammer
Hammer. Yeah,
Boy.
yeah. I mean they are actual like in control of their show to I believe a very specific like to a pretty like almost like a South Park degree I think. So they have a lot of push and pull, and so them being on Disney would mean a lot of things because they're on South Park usually, and I mean not South Park, they're on Adult Swim, and so being on Adult Swim gives them a lot of control because Adult Swim's freeform. They let you do basically whatever. Smiling Friends is going to be on Adult Swim, and the fact that Zach Hadel can get a show is a big sort of like sign of what you can get away with when it comes to Adult Swim. And yeah, Rick and Morty exists. Dan Harmon has provided a livelihood, stuff like
Scud
that.
is real.
He's real. But
Scud is real.
so yeah,
Not just a comic book.
so yeah, there's all that. But so I already forgot what we were talking about. Yeah, so them being in Disney control, like Disney bureaucracy will like no matter you won't have any freedom, and so hell, we don't even know if they'll like helm the show. They might get kicked off because of their ideas, or just never, or just be so muted behind the scenes that they might never have any actual impact on their own show, which is dark to think about. That's a like
condemned hell dimension.
that I hate that idea because that's just depressing. And I'm already depressed about the fact that the show stopped. And
Condemned to hell dimension.
I wish I lived in a universe where it still was going. They're like, oh, Venture Brothers will return. Yeah, right. Lying to me now? What, you're gonna cancel the promise of new seasons? I'm gonna piss on your cup, HBO Adult Swim or whatever. I forgot.
Yeah, it was fucking. It's fucking weird.
I don't know if it was. I don't know. My brain forgets like showrunners or who's in control. Obviously, I'm tired. The whole crux of the show is the fact that we're sleep deprived and like we're not searching shit up. We're not putting in the effort to move. We were like basically stand still, reading. Just like
I am laying on a bed.
I am sitting down. I was playing Neo 2 earlier, but then my controller kept like glitching out and causing my like audio to have a seizure. I'm like, what the hell? So I just unplugged that and stopped playing it. I needed to go pee. What are we gonna name the show?
Fucking.
I thought about In the AM because we only we only do the show in like at 1 a.m. beyond in the AM.
Yeah.
Any other pitches?
Fucking. We're tired.
We're tired.
No, just fucking. We're tired. Like with the fucking in there.
That's an option.
Yeah, fucking.
We'll probably think about this again when we're not tired, or it'd be showing of the retelling of the show. This thing is that we make the whole branding of the show and the iconography off the fact that we're sleep deprived, and we actually make it while sleep deprived.
Didn't Kurt make a logo for us a while back? Like he made a little thing.
I think so. I remember something about that.
Hours or whatever.
Yeah, I remember like having that sort of like not logo, that show idea name for a while. I remember telling him about it. We should see if we can find it because I mean, In the AM already has like stuff, and I remember like pitching that a while, like forever ago. We're talking about it with Kurt, and that's what Kurt kind of whipped that up. Yeah, In the AM is probably going to be the most probable thing.
Yeah.
And it's pretty short too. It's like searching that up would be really easy. Just in the AM, done. We are currently just hit 2 hours. It's currently 6:37. I think time updates would be interesting. Well, at least just every once in a while. It's like, oh yeah, we're 2 hours in. It's 6:37 a.m. We just talked about world building, Gundam, Miley Cyrus, Cory in the House stopping racism, and ousting everyone as a pedophile.
Dig on multiverses.
Dig on multiverses, and Ohio.
Ohio. Fuck Ohio.
So let's do a quick sort of rundown of the show. The consistency of when the show comes out is unknown. Editing of the show might take a while just because I'm weird, and I might just send it to you so you can just clip out what you want because it's probably just like a real easy edit job. And I don't know, I might view it from a bit of a perfectionist lens, or just like wanting to make sure everything's nice, and just sending it to you might make the job easier.
Bitch, I don't have an editing software.
You make videos occasionally. Oh wait, you don't edit them, do you? Well, you made a
yeah,
couple edits. You have like 1 or 2 videos with edits. I can send it to Riley or something. But like any way for me to like not have to be, just in case like I get lazy, just like get me to send it to someone. Get me to send it to you, and you can fucking do something with it. If that's the case.
The only edits I've done are through like either the YouTube editor or like just literally just any cut you see in like one of my raw ass JoJo videos.
Yeah, but I mean it's just
just
trimming.
like me
It's
pausing the recording.
Yeah, I mean it's just trimming, really. I mean So I mean it wouldn't be hard. I mean maybe adding an image. I need to go pee really badly, but I want to end this up real quick. So yeah, the consistency of when the show's going to come out is going to be weird because we don't know when we're going to be sleep deprived. We don't know when we're going to like hit conversations. We started this because we talked about it previously. I thought, hey, that's fun. We were reviewing footage, and then we were just kind of like talking about this shit, and it's like, this is when we should be recording. So we got it as like somewhat as soon as possible. We backpedaled the conversation a bit and tried to recover some things. That's why like the beginning of the podcast was like, so we first covered this, and then we'll hopefully try to make this again. We'll probably upload this on Fellas Only, just so that channel stays relevant and sort of stays as like a more group oriented stuff. And I want to try to find the login stuff so I can give it to you too, so you can like figure out on doing anything on there if you want to manage stuff and upload it if you end up getting the footage. Anyways, that's it for the thing. Any last words?
I need to get a shave.
Okay, I need to take a shower and go the fuck to sleep. That's the outro of the thing.